Hello YouTube, I hope you're having a wagtastic day. This is Universe Bear from the Wagatorium, bringing you another battle replay. This time my Greenskins are going to go against Blind Ziska's Vampire Pirates. And I know in the last match I felt like my voice was a little too low, the game volume a little too high, so I've turned down the game volume and hopefully that fixes the issue. I also turned down the graphics a little bit because I was getting some FPS drops. So I actually bought this computer just to do streaming. My old one just couldn't handle it. So it's nice to see that my new computer can't handle it either. With that, let's just jump into the army compositions here. So I guess we'll start with my army. I brought a huge front line of orc boys. They're pretty strong. They have better leadership than goblins. They have pretty good melee attack. Weapon strength with 8 AP, a bunch of HP. So they're pretty solid, and they're also pretty cheap, which allows me to go quite wide, which I find very helpful against the vampire pirates. I also have 5 arrow units, 4 goblin archers, and the rusty arrows to lower armor on things like Noctilus. These guys should be able to lay a whooping on Mornghuls or bats, or Noctilus himself, and shut down any range that they have. Because arrows really tend to counter the vampire pirates ranged units. I also have 3 units of static orc big guns, immune to psychology when they have their morale up, but they also just hit like trucks, and they'll be able to clear out any summons in my backline, and also take out bats, and then move up and take out Mornghuls or Count Noctilus and deal with any leftover infantry. For my leadership corps, I brought 2 goblin big bosses, one on a spider, one on a wolf because it's a little bit cheaper, and Wurzag, who's pretty kitted out. I think this might have been a mistake. Usually I bring a footlord against vampires, but I actually have a army build that's just this corps. So I think what I did was I just clicked that because I play with this corps so often, and then built my army around it when really I should be bringing a footlord like Grimgor or maybe Skarsnik. Over here I have a Night Goblin Squig Hopper groups that are going to try to come in here and ambush. As for Blind Ziska, he's got the good old Count Noctilus with a very lean and mean build. He's got both the summons, Invocation of the Heck, and the Wraithstorm. So he's going as cheap as he can, but also as efficient as he can. So I think that's definitely very good. He's got 4 felled bats here. They're going to be able to swoop in on my backline pretty effectively, and really clutter up all these archers. And the goblins really have pitiful melee stats: 10, 15, 24 weapon strength. They're not really going to be able to hold up to that. He's also got 2 depth guards here, which are going to be able to chew through my orc boys pretty solidly, and then 4 deckhand mobs, I guess just as a bit of a front line to take a bunch of charges, things like that. He's got a Mornghul back here, and then he's got the Black Spot, who can lay down a little bit of fire support, and also have anti-large, so they can defend themselves a little bit if any cavalry were to sneak into their ranks. So without further ado, let's get this game a-rolling. So we're just kind of eyeing each other here. Count Noctilus is going to start taking some shots at not sure what. Looks like he just fired in the air there. Let's see what he's shooting at. He looks like he's just blowing smoke, so I guess he's just trying to intimidate right now. Not really sure why he's not firing. He's going for these goblins. I'm okay with that. Goblins are only 300, so overall that's pretty cheap. Even if I lose them, it's not a big loss, and it might actually be kind of a waste of ammo from him. He's bringing the bats on in, which is very scary. I think that's a very effective build for taking out the backline. Now he's going after Wurzag, which is really his highest threat here. And because he's on a mount, he's going to take a bunch of damage. He's going to be pretty easy to hit. These guys are coming in, the deckhand droppers, to really lay a whooping on Wurzag. And then all his fell bats are coming in, mucking up my arrows so that they can't chase off the deck droppers. So that's a really smart play by him, really allowing these guys to stay in range and to just rip apart Wurzag, which is unfortunate for me because a lot of the way I play this army is dependent on buffs. Not just the wag, but the bonewood staff and all that stuff. So he's going to be taken out here really early on in the game, which is going to be very hard to deal with. But we're going to come charge in here anyway. We still got some Goblin Big Bosses to hold things together. So just charging into chaff with our chaff. We should win those chaff fights. See Warzag's running away. I was hoping he would come back, but he does have blinds. This guy has fell bats, so they're going to chase him down and chase him off the field, unfortunately. You can see he has some summons on these goblin archers. We're going to have to bring in these big guns to clear that up. We have goblin big bosses on these fell bats. They're doing a pretty decent job for now. These guys are going to move in on more of the front line, try to break through there, break into his back line a little bit. But you see their front line's actually doing a fair amount of work, especially with Overwatch fire from these deck droppers. They're really shooting down these orcs. All the free archers here are trying to shoot down Noctilus, doing a fair amount of damage. You can see these squig hoppers are finally in action, coming into the back of these Death Guard, and they are just ripping up these Death Guard. Like, look at that HP just tank. I don't think they're going to do that well, but they do have armor piercing and anti-infantry, so I think that could be a little bit of a counter to Depth Guard that I didn't really know about before myself. So I'm definitely going to bring those in the future. Arrows are going against this Morgul Haunter. It doesn't have a lot of armor, so it is pretty susceptible to arrow fire, and then the Savage Orc big ones have some anti-large, so at least they'll be able to dish out some damage, but they'll probably take some damage as well. He's got more zombies in the back. He's got some summons fighting the Savage Orc big ones, who already have 80 kills just from clearing that out. Zombie deckhand mobs winning the fight, it seems, a little bit against these orcs. I got my backline, or their backline, a bit compromised over here with the squig hoppers coming in and laying a bit of a whooping and just trying to sandwich as many things as I can. I got to make up the loss of points I got with Warzag. So he's almost off the field now. I tried to send this Goblin Big Boss to help him, but the bats are just chasing him off. There's not much I can do over there. Still got a lot of arrows though, and they're pouring fire into these deck droppers pretty good. Most of the fell bats are gone now, so the only thing I have to worry about is summons, which he's still summoning things, but we're working through it. You can see over here the Death Guard are really in their element, just taking down these orc boys, and there's a little bit of a surround with the zombie deckhand mobs. These guys aren't long for this world. This flank pretty much totally broken off. I think these guys came in support, and Noctilus as well with his Fear and Terror and Giant Cannon were able to push that flank off, but we still got a strong center here, and we still have quite a few archers. These guys are still doing a ton of damage. They get an unbelievable amount of work done in most matches. Quite a good unit. You can see I'm bringing these squid hoppers over here and then doing nothing with them, so I don't know why I brought them up. The Goblin Archers getting another summon on them, so I'm going to have to move something in to try to defend. I don't really have anything because these big ones are tied up, so I'm going to move in the Goblin Big Bosses most likely to try and take those guys out. Over here I brought in a fresher unit of Orc Boys, or at least another unit of Orc Boys, to try to deal with the Depth Guard. They are getting work down. The 8 AP from the Orc Boys will slowly start to chip into this armor. Just one of the reasons why I like the Orcs in this battle for sure. Yeah, so the Goblin Big Bosses are getting into these zombie deckhand mobs, and then the Savage Orc big ones are going to come in to support and should be able to clean that up pretty good. Some of the bats are coming back, which is unfortunate because a lot of these troops are close to routing, and we really need them to be able to take out Noctilus and some of the deckhand mobs over here. You can see now we're starting to take apart my other leadership units, which is definitely a good call. Without the leadership, it's going to be pretty hard for the Greenskins to last very long. I got some squig hoppers over here, kind of regrouping, and try to get them back into the fight over there. And over here, this Goblin Big Boss with his shield, I think, is negating a lot of fire. Actually, it looks like these guys aren't firing for some reason. You can see the Depth Guard are coming in against these Savage Orc big ones. Savage Orc big ones do pretty good against Depth Guard. They have 13 AP, a ton of melee attack. Depth Guard will obviously chop them up and do quite a bit of hurt, but they're going to take a hurt back. You can see the bats again trying to take out the archers, as they should do. And I'm trying to defend with various melee units. trying to get the archers on Count Noculus and the Depth Guard. I'm not sure which one there, but they're both good targets for arrows to be shooting at. Goblin Big Boss is getting taken out by these bats, so maybe I should be shooting at those instead. Their back line is finally being taken down, but not quite all the way, but they shouldn't last too much longer. You can see these shots are still coming down here. I got one Goblin Big Boss who hasn't routed yet, holding this Greenskin army together as best as he can, but I don't think he's going to last very long. The Depth Guard come in here against the Savage Orc Biggins, and the Bats come in here against the Goblin Archers. Gonna probably try to bring these Orc Boys in, but I can't because they just routed, and so did my Goblin Archers. But good news is the Depth Guard are pretty much gone, and I still have a couple of units of infantry here that can take a fight, and I still, more importantly, have some of these archers, and I say that as a Wraith Storm comes in and just slams these guys back to Chinatown, and the bats come in and start eating on these guys' faces. So I'm gonna bring the Orc Boys in, try to chase off these bats once again. These guys are almost on their ammunition. In fact, these are deck droppers that have lost their ammunition. 41 kills on those bad boys. Managed to take out a lot of the leadership and get a lot of unit kills. Definitely got a ton of value. These Orc Boys are going to try to muck up Noctilus so the archers can get away. I'm trying to form kind of a concave here, but morale is just so low that it doesn't take very much for these guys to just start running. Luckily, these bats are probably going to fall now that I actually have some melee in here. But unfortunately, these guys do get broken off the field. So I only have 3 units of archers left. Going to be putting a big fire into Noctilus. We have to get this guy down. I don't believe I have the rusty arrows anymore. They're prioritized first, as they should be, because they would take down his armor by quite a bit. Bats coming in for another push, as they always do. Forever bats. And my frame rate drops, just causing more trouble. Geez, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why it's dropping when there's less units than there's been on the whole match on the field. It seems kind of ridiculous. And we're back up, and the bats are trying to take out these units. They're pretty scared, and they're not going to last very long, and neither will my computer at this rate, it seems. Going to be trying to fire into these bats and use my melee units just to try to take them out once and for all, and at that point I can move on to Noctilus, see if we can't gang up on him. The balance of power is going against me though, as I feel it has been for most of the game. Playing a bit of catch up here. Really got to take out Count Noculus. Sorry about that. These bats are causing quite a bit of problems. It's hard to get around them. Bringing in these Savage Orc Biggins as our arrows shoot in, trying to take down Count Noculus. And bringing in the Goblin Big Bosses, who have survived for quite a long time with not a lot of health. But it's just not going to be enough. And everything's going to get terrified away. Army losses hit, and there go all my troops. So very good fight. Shouldn't have brought Wurzag. But it is what it is. Got sniped out quite a bit. Still, it was very close. The only thing really he had left was one group of bats without any ammo, and Count Noculus. I feel if I had Wurzag, he would have done quite a bit better with the buffs and everything. But well played from Blind Ziska. And actually there's a second game. I ran into him the next day, so I thought this would be a good way to showcase how you can change your build to counter something if you analyze some of your losses. So let's jump over to that. So here we have the second game between me and Blind Ziska. We both brought a little bit of a different army composition, so I guess I'll start with my army here. Instead of Wurzag, I've brought Grimgore Ironhide. It's pretty tough, decent HP pool. I find that he's good against monstrous infantry like crabs and Morghuls, who can't really knock him around that much, and he'll lay whooping onto those. And as well, he's just a smaller target. It's a lot harder to snipe him out. Sorry about my computer. I also have a Orc Shaman over here. You know, just doing Orc Shaman-y things. Brought 3 spells. Fist of Gork. Here we go. And the Foot of Gork. No reason to bring the smaller spells as he doesn't have the Bonewood Staff proc, so just saving a little bit of money there. I also brought Orc Boys again. They did quite well in the fight, and this time I'll be able to buff them up with some spells, so they should do a little bit better. 8 Peak Loony Fanatics, just so my front line doesn't completely buckle and they get into my back line, which is comprised of 5 Orc Arrow Boys. I felt like they could use a bit more AP against Noctilus, which I was pretty sure he was going to bring, and Depth Guard. But as well, I just felt like I was constantly fighting off bats and summons in the last game with Blind Ziska. So I want to bring a group of archers that could at least defend themselves a little bit. I also brought 4 groups of Savage Orc Biggins to also defend the backline. So really a big push on keeping all of this safe, which is what I really need to take down Noctilus and some of the other things the vampires can bring. Probably should have brought Squid Hoppers. Maybe I couldn't afford them. I'm not sure why I brought the Skirmishers, but a little bit more fire with AP missiles and then some poison, so they can get away from any hounds or anything of that nature. If we look at Blind Ziska's army, a little bit of a change from last time. He's got a few less fell bats, he's got 2, and then only 2 deck droppers. So a little bit less of air superiority from him on this one. And I think he did that so he could bring the Lamprey's Revenge. They're quite a good monstrous unit, very tough, and they also have a little bit of ranged on them. And he also brought 3 groups of Death Guard, which is pretty scary. He's hiding 2 of them in the woods here. They're going to be able to mulch through all my Orc Boys and cause quite a bit of trouble. He has 2 units of Deckhand Mobs, the Black Spot again, who were doing quite well last time, and then some Pirate Deckhand Mobs. Maybe he didn't like how the squigs were getting into his back line and how much damage they were dealing, so I think that's a good call for sure. So let's get this battle underway as I nauseatingly turn to get a good angle. So once again, Noctilus is going to be opening fire here. He's opening fire on the main grid Major Marauders, which is a good choice. They got AP damage. They're worth 600, so I think that's a good call from him. But they're going to run into the forest. They don't want any of that nonsense, as our main army is going to just meet them in head-on engagement. One thing I forgot to mention is he is deployed in the water, and the zombies don't get the penalties that water give most units, so that's a good call from him, using the terrain to his advantage. I think that's very smart indeed. Bringing out the bats a little bit. Maybe he's worried that I'm going to have some charges here or some funny shenanigans in the forest. Not a bad call to check that out for sure. We're just advancing. Noctilus is moving away. Maybe he's seen the amount of arrows I've got with AP, or maybe just getting a better angle or something. Not sure. He's going to be firing in on just the Orc Arrow Boys over here, doing a ton of damage. Still, they're not worth too much. I think they're 500 or something like that. It's going to be summoning some Deckhand Mobs here just to muck up my advance. Not a bad call, but the Orc Boys should be able to clean that up pretty good. Going to bring up my Skirmishers here, try to get on the side, try to shut down these Deckhand Droppers that caused me so much trouble last game. They're going to be moving out of range, which is a good call. Blind Ziska on top of his micro here as we slowly advance. I think I'm just moving because I'm not too worried about his range. He doesn't have a lot. I don't want to tire my guys out. At least I say that. I probably just forgot to put them on fast move. I'm going to be charging into these Deckhand Mobs. AP Glooney is definitely going to win that fight, especially with Grimgor supporting. He's going to bring in the Lamprey's Revenge. I lie. He's going to leave them to sit there. He's going to bring in these Death Guards from the woods. Luckily I had 2 units that were kind of going up to the woods anyway to counter that, so he's not going to get any surrounds or anything. Bats chasing down the Skirmishers, and my arrows are just working down Count Noctilus here. So the wag does pop once I meet these Death Guard. I know I need as many buffs as I can here to win this engagement, but you can see these Death Guard are just getting taken to Pound Town by the Savage Orc Biggins. Savage Orc Biggins have 13 armor piercing, a ton of melee strength, a ton of melee attack, and with these buffs, they're just gonna cleave these guys in twain. And even the Orc Boys are doing a good job with the buffs at holding their own. So I'm not sure how good of Depth Guard are against Greenskins, especially when you're bringing melee attack buffs like that. Now the arrows are turning onto the Lamprey's Revenge. Going to chew those guys up. They have a lot of AP for their missiles. I think it's 6 AP. So with this volume of fire, they're just going to shred pretty much anything they go after, even with their poor accuracy. These Savage Orc Big Guns kind of on a futile run to try to end the black spot there. The bats luckily have been chasing these skirmishers around, which has been great for me because they haven't been able to occupy any of my more potent archer units. So these guys have mostly been able to just sit and fire, and as I say that, he brings in a summon on these wounded arrow boys. Pretty good call, but I'm going to be able to move them out. Bring in my Savage Orc Big Guns who are waiting in reserve for pretty much that exact event, and my Orc boys are going to catch his other summon here. Still has a good core over here, and Noctilus is still pretty healthy, so he's going to be trying to push in with Noctilus. I think he's trying to come after these arrows. He's realized that these are a huge threat, and they're taking down a lot of his elite units. But Count Noctilus, pretty elite himself. He's going to find himself in a tornado of arrows as my concave is just blasting on in here. He's going to use Invocation of Nag to try to heal some damage, which he really needs to do. Savage Orc Big Guns starting to try to chomp through these lines. I want to get in on his black spot, chew a little bit of his army up some more. I got the mangy marauders back here. The spider riders were left to play with the bats and kind of distract them. Noctilus coming in here after dropping some summons, trying to just take up as many archers as he can. Not a bad choice, but the archers that are left are going to be able to constantly fire on him, and Grimgor's going to come in here and just start laying a whooping. There's not going to be much he can do at this point. He really needed those fell bats to muck up the arrows. And so Count Noctilus pretty going back to the grave pretty soon, and that's going to be game. So another good game from Blind Ziska. I think his previous build with more Fellbats was very effective at mucking up all the back lines. I think that was pretty strong, so I would have liked to have seen him keep that build. I think that's what was really working for him in the last one. But overall, still a great game. And Blind Ziska, I hope we get to run into each other again, and we can have our best of 3. All right, take care, guys.